GH is for preventing like joint damage, right? Isn't that the thing that why people pair steroids and GH? Am I right on that?
Typically it's largely what regulates fat loss. Like it's a very, you know, people think you're going to get shredded when you use it, and it does help to some extent, but it's more so, it's sort of like a balancing act. I'm trying to get not too sciencey because I come off so pretentious when I talk about this shit sometimes.
Go for it, man.
But yeah, it's like a lot of it has to do with like joints integrity, tendons, ligaments, stuff like that. But that's why when you use way too much of it too, you end up with like an over abundance of, you know, like pointy ass elbows and like fucked up, you know, extremities and stuff like that.
Huh. Do you take growth hormone?
No, I don't.
Have you?
I have though.
Yeah. So we should have laid it. What I would describe the premise of your channel is a series of scientific experiments on gear and SARMs and that whole class of things on you. So you'll try it for, I'm making up timelines, like a number of weeks or months, and say, this is what this SARM did to me. This is what I took. This is how long I took it. And this is how I felt about it.
Another little fact finding thing for people watching. Can you kind of go through the, I guess, vocabulary, like SARMs, the different kinds of steroids? Like, I don't know anything. I know, like, from watching your videos, like finasteride or something like that. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of different kinds. just so people can kind of get it.
Okay, so like in general, the breakdown of different like classes of compounds is like anabolic steroids, which is like all the shit you've probably heard of, like D-bol, testosterone, DECA, that kind of stuff, trenbolone. That's all anabolic steroids, and that's largely what's going to dictate muscle growth. Like that's like the base of everything to do with muscle essentially in your body. Like 90% of it is driven by, and that's just a rough estimate. That's obviously not, you know, the main thing is like your testosterone in your body it's technically in a dictionary, it's a androgen, but all the anabolic steroids that people use for muscle growth are derived from that testosterone molecule. So those things that you hear of, the trenbolone, the DECA, the whatever, those are all in the anabolic steroid class. As far as what SARMs are, typically I wouldn't even tell somebody it's worth exploring until they understand the first thing. I actually did a video recently called the anabolic steroid family tree. And for anyone who wants like a very newbie breakdown of each steroid, because even within that category, there's like different types of categories and it gets really complicated. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, when they watch my shit, they're like, what is this guy even fucking talking about? You know, like you don't know where to start. This thing provides a framework of like, okay, here's like the parent molecule, testosterone. Here's this class of compound, this class, and this class. They each have this type of impact on athletic performance. They might be leveraged in this sport versus this sport versus this sport. They might be used for this goal versus this goal. You know what I mean? And then, so those are like the steroids. SARMs is kind of like something that was supposed to replace steroids, because if a girl or a kid uses a steroid in like a medical setting, so let's say some kid or some woman has muscle wasting or something, instead of injecting them with a steroid, which in the past we've seen, you know, makes them, you know, get masculinizing side effects, which is obviously not a good outcome for some little fucking kid who hasn't even hit puberty yet to be jabbing him with testosterone or whatever, or some chick. So SARMs are meant to like replace the muscle building capacity of a steroid without making them like a man, pretty much.
Tell me how close I'm coming. I'm sorry, Kyle. I know you're biting at the bit too, and you're chomping at the bit.
Chomping at it.
Yeah. So they're androgen receptors, and those are all kinds of different things that react to testosterone, maybe growing a mustache, muscles, etc. And then SARMs are specific androgen receptors. That's the S. And ideally, if things work perfectly, SARMs are like steroids that only impact muscles. Am I close?
Yeah, like the chemical structure of them, you can't really define them as a steroid because they're not technically derived from that like testosterone molecule, but they're like a synthetic drug, whereas testosterone's actually like something you produce.
The S is specific, right? Specific androgen receptor molecule? Did I get it?
Yeah, so basically how you would build muscle, like at the most basic level, is you have androgen receptors in your muscles, in your everywhere in your body. And for the steroid to work, it needs to bind to the androgen receptor and transcribe its effects in the tissue. So that's why you would have a certain steroid, has a certain affinity to bind to muscle here, or affinity to bind to your prostate, or affinity to bind to somewhere. And how, the characterization of what it does depends on the chemical, the affinity to bind, its level of how much it's going to masculinize you. Like there's like a whole sub layer of shit underneath that. But basically, the target of all of them is essentially the androgen receptor, whereby they build the muscle essentially and maintain bone and all this kind of stuff. But there's like off target activity, which is like next level shit, not even worth elaborating on, where you have like stuff that prevents muscle wasting, like by hitting glucocorticoid receptors, which prevents cortisol from transcribing its effects, because cortisol is anti, catabolic and whatnot. Like there's a whole another section of that, but at a base level, like the androgen receptor is basically what essentially facilitates if a steroid is even, because you could have a steroid floating around that's not really doing shit if it's not binding to the receptor first and then doing its thing. So
Kyle, did you still want to get in?
Yeah. So you've got the series of videos where you you look at various Hollywood actors and you see the body transformations they go through.
Yeah.
And I would like to see, maybe, because this is something we discuss on the show a lot. Woody and I are big MMA fans, UFC specifically. And there are a few female athletes that we look at and we're like,
They're very ugly.
bullshit. bullshit. Like Chris Cyborg, 100%. I mean, she's tested positive for I don't know what it was. Maybe it was Clomid. It was it was something you take in conjunction with steroids or
I
something.
think she's
like
tested positive twice for things. And
The
there's
thing that's sorry to cut you off, but basically the thing that's really obvious about the UFC and like their testing parameters is it's always the thing that you would use to recover after a cycle that they get popped for. It's never the hormone they're using, and if it is, it's always like some weird like downstream metabolite that they basically fucked up and didn't get out of their system in time. So it's like, to me, it's always a really obvious red flag. Like, why would you be using Clomid? You know what I mean? Like, there's no performance enhancing advantage to having Clomid in your system. And the only logical conclusion as to why you would have it in your system and why all these fighters have it is you just did something and now you're trying to recover.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I would like you to look at some of these ladies' bodies.
the Chinese champion comes to mind.
Wei Li, yeah. I don't trust people from that part of the world very much anyway with their bodies. I feel like the Chinese and the Russians in particular have gotten caught cheating in one way or another so many times in international competition.
They certainly cheat in video games.
They cheat in video games. All right. I'm just saying it's factual. And I know Woody he looks at Holly Holm's bikini line and he thinks maybe there's a little bit too much going on down there.
That woman has an enlarged labia clitoris thing cooking. It is. She's a 1 percentile in that regard.
It doesn't look that big to me. Her fighter name is the Preacher's Daughter. I won't have you sully her good name.
I'm gonna look up the Preacher's Daughter clit, and I'll give you my. I'm gonna give you my undivided.
You're gonna find
opinion.
a completely different series on top, and just ignore all the postings that I made there. No, but and then Chris Cyborg in particular.
Oh, this
like,
is not a helpful search at all.
Chris Cyborg has. It looks like she's had like cranial development. Like
Look it up here.
Yeah, like Chris Cyborg in particular. What does she squat for reps? What is it 300 or 400?
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know.
It's something
400?
absurd. Yeah,
That's insane.
for reps.
Wow.
For reps. She's and
Christ.
it's not one of those where you see like a girl maxing out on Reddit and you're like, oh my god, that was incredible, and it's clear that she just like blew her load lifting this, doing.
What's
this
up, everybody?
movement. She's pumping 300 or 400.
The thing I would look to that I typically like, if you were looking at a girl specifically to see if they've used anything, I would look to their younger pictures and see if they looked way more feminine. Like, I'm trying to find younger pictures of her to see if she ever looked like normal.
Yeah. I've never seen her look normal. Chris Cyborg in particular.
She's been ugly since the beginning.
But like objectively less so relative to current is what I'm trying to find.
That woman's a mother.
Young Chris Cyborg.
Here. This is time stamped at 3:44.
Oh, her head's definitely gotten bigger, Chris Cyborg. Yeah.
I love that.
Oh
Thumbnail.
wow.
Jeez.
Holly Holm, is she natural? Look at her clit and decide for yourself.
Welcome to the show.
I'm just saying, looking at that myself, I
Welcome
don't
to
see
60 Minutes.
anything that's
Today we're
out
gonna-
of like, that doesn't look unnatural to me. What she's got going on down there.
I've
She's
seen
got-
her zoomed in plenty of times.
but,
Like, this
She's a
isn't
good
a-
Christian gal, you know. I
This
trust her.
isn't like a doctored photo. Like, how do we know that for sure?
Uh,
Like,
well-
have you seen the live weigh-in? Like,
Yeah,
or is this just
that's the kind of thing I watch. I hardly miss a weigh-in. I'm really into the UFC, and that's just a defining attribute of her.
right.
Ah,
Yeah, that one just based on like typically I would look at facial features before I'd look at just like a fucking camel toe, to be honest.
Okay.
So it's kind of
Well, you do you. I look where I look, and I'm not changing.
Yeah,
it
well,
draws the eye.
It does. It draws the eye. See a big meaty clam, you know, you notice.
Her body fat is so low. She's so strong. She has a body a lot of guys would trade for, and that's just
Yeah.
I don't know. She's buff, but yeah,
I think I'm just looking at some recent pictures of her now. We're talking about Holly Holm now, right?
yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
Holmes. ES.
It's not.
It's not.
No,
Oh,
you've
there
been pronouncing it that way for years. I just let it go.
That's true.
Fact check. True. Oh, that's funny.
Okay, so like here I would look at something like this, and then I would cross-reference what year that was, but there it's like notably more feminine, I would say, or just younger looking. But I would basically just look at a timeline of that. But nowadays, yeah, the Sheila, I wouldn't doubt she's on something now.
Yeah, and she's probably not cutting as much weight, to be fair, in this photo, because this is when she was doing pro boxing. And the
right.
weight classes are a little different. They can be up
Yeah,
and
she
down.
looks
3.5.
she looks more muscular now for sure, and drier, and obviously she has to cut down for weight classes. But I mean, I wouldn't put it honestly, like the testing in the UFC, it's like on the surface, I think it's very, like, oh, we show up at your door randomly and we test you and it's super intense. But it's
Mhm.
like in reality, it seems like to actually get to the point of we're going to use like a carbon isotope ratio or whatever the most elaborate, precise measurement is on you to see what exactly did you take. They have to basically fail a ratio of like testosterone to epitestosterone test first. And that ratio I've seen in studies myself, you can use upwards of like 300 milligrams a week and still not tip that ratio.
Jesus.
Yeah. So like
Sounds like a
on
lot.
this, yeah, that's like you would probably make like naturally 6 to 7 milligrams a day. So like per week, that's like, around,
That's
Incalculable.
enormous.
you could be having like 4 times the average natural production just from that.
Yeah, so 7 a
And-
day is 49 a week, right? And you could
Yeah, that
you
would-
could add 300 to that. I guess you'd probably shut down, so you'd have
Yeah,
300.
that's like a
altogether.
good. That's like a good average TRT fucking dose. The 300 a week. That's
No, that would be like cycle territory.
really.
What would a
like
TRT dose be?
is like, so basically if you produce like, it's actually the range of 3 to 10 milligrams a day is like the full range for the shittiest of guy to like the top echelon of genetic elite for
Mhm.
natural production. So at the best you could produce like 70 a week. And then if you were taking, let's just say even 200 milligrams, like they've shown in the studies that 125 a week is kind of where you start to get into supra physiological range. You know what I mean? So like above and beyond what you would naturally do, even if you were like the pinnacle of fucking natural production, which realistically, how many are like
Very few.
likelihood
That's why
is-
it's the pinnacle.
yeah, the likelihood is low. So, anyways, 125 is like where things start to really get unfair advantage territory. And then anything above and beyond that, 300 is like you could sit at home and gain more muscle than a guy like going to the gym with like natural production almost.
Really?
That Woody, that place I linked you a while back, that TRT place.
Uh-huh.
That's what they'll start you out at.
At what?
300.
Really?
But like that is,
Ring,
in my
ring, man.
opinion,
Yeah,
it's like
that's-
while that sounds good objectively, it's like
Mhm.
if you're gonna do like optimization, you want to try and start at where you're at that high normal level and then see how your body responds before you push it into that. Okay, now you're doing bodybuilder type shit. Cause it's not like it's, you know, side effect free or anything.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Let's talk
So-
about side effects. So I think of your channel being about gear and muscle growth, but almost a quarter of your videos are about hair loss. Like that's another area where you go into.
Yeah.
And you did a video on Connor Murphy. For people who don't know, Connor Murphy is this like aesthetically perfect sort of fitness industry. You know, if aliens came down looking for a perfect specimen, they might pick him. And then he sort of backed off a little bit, maybe a little less muscle, maybe a little higher body fat. Still amazing, but
yeah.
visibly different than what he was the year before. And you
And he's
theorized
never
it.
gone back there.
You theorized it was about hair loss. That he saw hair loss and decided to make that trade off.
Yeah, so like for that one to me it was super obvious, and I'll just show you an example. I actually spent the time to. I don't usually write articles, but it's like something if I feel like it might get indexed well by Google or something, I'll like go
Yeah.
out of my way to write an article too. And let me just find the image here specifically.
Well, I trust your advice about not losing your hair. You got a nice like Jimmy Neutron flow going.
Yeah, have you seen that meme or whatever? There was like a meme going around on Reddit that sort of went viral, and it was like
Oh,
it
I
was
haven't
like
seen that.
somebody commented on one of my videos. It was like, you look like Jimmy Neutron with his stats maxed out. And it was pretty fucking funny. And
Damn, I'm not alone there.
yeah, it went I don't know what would constitute viral on Reddit. Like I'm assuming it did though, because a
Front
bunch of
page
meme
works, I
pages started posting it, and they were like meme pages with like 2 million followers and stuff. And I was like, oh, like people kept tagging me, and I was like, it'd be nice if these people fucking tagged me in the caption, but
Yeah.
still nonetheless. So
Thing we can
let's-
get.
Well, now you know what to dress up for in Halloween.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Brain blast.
So, is there hope for Justin? You did it was your video I saw about Justin Bieber, right? Did you do one on him?
Maybe.
Justin
yeah.
Bieber's on steroids?
No,
Justin
no, it was
Bieber.
just-
Justin
yeah.
Bieber was making fun of, I don't know my royal family that well, Prince somebody or other, for losing hair when he was like, Justin Bieber was maybe 16 or 17. He's like, what's wrong with you, bro? Why don't you just use this Capisha or something? I don't know them. And fast forward 10 years and Bieber's losing his hair. And it's like, karma.
Yeah. So I linked the article. I can't for some reason copy and paste the specific Instagram link for these pictures, but they're hyperlinked in this article. If you just scroll to the bottom of it, you can see, holy shit, like that's a pretty vast difference between now
Oh,
he's
yeah.
still working out like every fucking day, but all of a sudden he just can't maintain that physique anymore. Like that is the biggest red flag in itself when you're still, your job is being in shape. You're a fitness industry influencer who literally does shirtless videos on camera every single time. So for your physique to suddenly, just for no reason whatsoever, be significantly less so than it was when you were 5 years younger and have had less time in the gym, it's kind of like, you know,
Yeah,
1 + 1 = fucking obvious, you know?
that makes sense.
And you think the reason that he decided to change is the hair loss?
Yeah, so he was starting to have it go, and like frankly, it's a wise choice on his part. If he didn't have like a protocol in place or something to prevent it from getting worse, it's just going to keep getting worse, and steroids obviously accelerate that significantly. So for him, I think he noticed, holy shit, I'm starting to go and I better get off. And now he's in a position where, well, shit, my physique is not as good as it was, but I can't go back on to maintain that because it's going to make me bald. So
Yeah, but if you're a big muscle man, you
Some
can be
guys-
bald. Vin
Yeah,
Diesel
but
does it.
That's what everyone says, man. Everyone's like, yo, The Rock is attractive, so fuck you, shave your head. And it's like, that's what everyone's justification is, you know? Jason Statham is bald, Bruce Willis is bald, and it's like, some people just don't want to go bald, you know? So
That's true. I'd look
Connor
outrageous.
Murphy, there are so many times I see these before and after pictures and think, I'd take the before. You know? No, in this case, he's the after. That's not as good. Usually it's backwards.
oh yeah, he still has a good physique, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a lot of people, they misconstrue what I say is like shitting on the guy like in his natural form. And it's like, no, like he has a great physique even now. I'm just saying when these people try to pass off, oh, I'm natural, I'm just like bulking right now, and that's why I'm a bit soft. It's like, no, dude, you weigh 20 pounds less now, and you don't look anything like you did when you were 22 years old, and now you're 27, and you still work out like 5 days a week. So,
yeah.
It's
I guess if you know what to look for, it's easy to say.
like you said, he could be a beast with bald head and still look great, but he might choose it. Instead of having a perfect 10 body, a 9.5 with a head of hair, and
exactly. Like objectively to women, they're not going to respond much different to him before versus after. It's only the guys and people like me who fucking see it, who are like, oh, you've lost muscle now. But
he's only getting less dude compliments.
Yeah,
now.
he's not trying to pick you up, Derek.
There's like a scale of like attraction to women and like dude attention. You know what I mean? And it's like the threshold is very low for what you need to do to actually be peaked for attracting women. And a lot of people think, oh, I gotta like take all the shit to get girls, and they end up just making it worse.
But really, it's more about money. Yeah,
that's it. Exactly.
Man, that guy's been goosing his bank account a bit.
His wallet's so thick, he sits sideways.
Oh man, yeah, he's like George Costanza sitting like this with his wallet.
Look at him,
Mr. Beast style wallet. So
so
what